class today in honor of the Rosh Chodesh Adar, the new month of Adar, the Jewish month of Adar, that hosts the holiday of Purim. We're going to talk about joy and faith. I think it's something that a lot of people need nowadays, especially in these days where things are a little bit scary for a lot of people. And we need to bring into the world things that are positive. First of all, I want to say that this holiday of Purim, it says in the Gemara that this holiday will never go away, no matter what, because this holiday has this built-in construct in it that it reflects the makeup of the world, how the world was made up, constructed. So there is an effect that whatever you put out, you're going to find back again. Whatever you put out in the world, you're going to get it back. And if you follow this idea, you have different people call it different things. Some people call it karma. Some people call it boomerang. It gets back to you at some point. Whatever you send out comes back to you. We have a perfect example for the happening of Haman, who was the bad guy in the story of Purim, and in the scroll of Esther. He built a 50 cubit high gallows. So he intended to put in there his enemy. But what happened at the end is that he ended up being hung on it. So everybody's happy. It's a happy story, ends well. It took a long time. It's a story that even if you follow, it took so many years. And I want people to realize one thing about what's happening nowadays. The story of Purim, we know the end. We know that the end was a happy ending. But I also want to tell people that it took a lot of times and many years, as far as 9 years, for this story to unfold. And when we have things that are happening in the world and we get all excited and we think it's the end of the world, it really doesn't help anyone. You have to know, like one sweet little poster said, if the story doesn't have a happy ending, it's not over yet. So just sit with this and be patient and be confident that the end of the story will be a good, happy one. So the story of Purim, what is it that we see here? Whatever you put out in the world, you're going to find it back. And so that's very important for you to understand that whatever you put out in the world, if you put out stress, not because you are in a stressful situation, just because you hear other people in the stressful situation, whatever you're doing now is that you're putting out more stress and more panic and more tension in the situation. And it's not helping the other people for you to be stressed. So you can pray, you can send good things, you can send positive vibration and positive prayers, but for you to be stressed is not going to help anyone. There is a difference between praying for someone and being stressed to the point that you cannot function because someone else is stressed. All right? On the opposite, if someone else is stressed, they need you in the background to be there for them and to be holding the fort and to be strong and calm and good vibration to send it to them so that they can function. And if there is something to do, you do it. I'm not saying, just sit and have a happy life while other people are suffering, but I'm also saying that for you to be stressed is not helping them. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so we're going to talk about the idea of joy, because this month is really special. There is the holidays in the Torah where we're supposed to be happy, and we're told to be happy. But this month specifically, we are told that whoever comes into the Jewish month of Adar is supposed to increase in simcha, in joy and happiness. So we're going to talk about how do you bring this out? How do you express this? How does it translate into your life? In order to do that, we're going to talk about faith. And it could be faith in different things. I'm saying this, I'm addressing everyone. It could be faith in yourself, could be faith in others. It could be faith in the world, the way it is, in the universe. It could be faith in God. But if we do not have faith, it's very hard to have joy. You could be happy, but joy is a different thing. Joy comes from a different place in the heart of the person, knowing that things are the way they're supposed to be. How does the faith of a person express itself? There is a lot of things that shows that a person has faith. But one of the strongest things that you can notice, a person who has faith is a person who's happy. And when we are told to celebrate the holidays in the Jewish calendar, it says in the Bible that there is a date. We have a date with God. This is an appointed time. You set up a time, you set up a date, and at that time, that's when you celebrate, right? So that we always have the same date on the calendar. So this appointment with God, it says about it, Ve'ayita ach sameach, and you should be happy, only happy. How do you do that? I mean, people could have all kinds of events in their life. They could have been fired for their job. There could be somebody is sick. There could be a lot of different things that makes them that they cannot be happy. So what does it mean that when you have this time on the calendar that falls on the 14th of the month, all of a sudden you have to be happy and only happy? Why is that? If you look at the words Ve'ayita ach sameach in Hebrew, which means and you will be only happy, the first letter of the first word is a vav. The first letter of the second word is the aleph, and the first letter of the third word is a shin. And if you put it together, you have the word shav, which means equal. It means that when you are, just a second, come in. If you have the word shav, it means equal, means that the person, whether they're being under a very difficult situation or very happy situation, they are going to be equal. In other words, you know the famous story of the guy who went to the market. Please take a seat. Please take a seat over here. You know the guys that the king, actually it was a king, went to the market and he found a jeweler and he said to him, make me something that I can use all the time, that will teach me something and remind me something good all the time. So what could be something that applies in all the situation? When he came back, the next time he came back, the jeweler had made him a ring. And on the ring, it says, these two will pass. Because a person can be very, very excited, but these two will pass. How long is it going to last? And somebody can be very, very sad, and these two will pass. Somebody was just telling me that after now 13 years of being sad about a specific event, now she can handle it. But even if it takes a long time, at some point it will pass. So when we are being told Ve'ayita ach sameach, really the message is that you should feel happy, not because something outside of you makes you happy, but because you inside yourself are happy. Because you are feeling in harmony with yourself and you're feeling equal, that things are okay. So the the thing is like this: how can you be happy when there is a situation that is so difficult that you really cannot, imagine yourself jumping of joy? We're not saying that this happiness and this harmony comes from an extreme joy. We're saying that we are looking at things in a way that the person knows where it's coming from, and the person knows that where it's coming from, it is good for him. In other words, it might be bitter, it might be difficult, it might be very tough, it might be even sometimes dangerous, whatever the situation is, but it is a moment that is supposed to make that person grow and be a better person. A person can lose a job. We don't know why that person lost the job. Let's say somebody, worked very, very hard to take a test, where it's a test where the university takes only the first 100 people. No matter how hard that person worked, and she worked very hard, she's now not being accepted. So it's a big disappointment. But that is the way that is going to be good for her in the long run. And I repeat, in the long run, because very often we do not see that it's good for us right now, but you have to look in the long run. So if God loves you and God is good, as if you take that as premises, then he's not going to do anything that is going to be bad for you. If somebody is fired from their job, you don't know what's going to be the next thing. Is he going to create now his own company, or is going to find a better job, or maybe he needed it for his health to relax a little bit before the next job? We don't know, but God knows better, and we have to trust. This is what it means to trust that it's going to be good for us. So I want just to let's say a teenager wants to take the car and drive, and he's been already at the bar. Now he comes home, wants to take the car and go to some other place. So the father says no. So the teenager gets really, really mad because he sees his parents not needing the car. He sees the car sitting in the driveway and he cannot use it, and he doesn't understand why he's not being told that he can't use the car. So the father knows. The kid is already drunk. And the father has more experience. He knows what's better for the kids, and he says no. It doesn't mean he doesn't love the child. It means on the opposite, that he cares about the child and he wants something that is good for him. So the emunah, the faith, can be translated with joy. And again, the joy is not what I call the excitement, the jumping, the getting drunk, the getting loud. The joy comes from inside. It's an inner feeling of peace and harmony, that things are good. If a person is happy, they're going to be happy where they find themselves now. We are all where we're supposed to be. Some people say, but I don't have this, I don't have that. If I would have this, I'd be happy. Got to turn it a little bit. Turn it a little bit. So if a person is not satisfied with his own circumstance, it doesn't mean he can't be happy. He can still want more. He can still want different. But still, the place where he is now is the place where he needs to be to grow to the next stage. All right? So there was somebody actually who just mentioned that. One person said, when I'll be rich and be famous, then I have confidence in myself. And it happened that he did become very rich and very famous. And he still didn't have the confidence in himself. So then he realized that he waited to have confidence in himself with something that was external to him. And he really, that didn't change him. So he saw that one thing didn't have anything to do with the other. Anyway, so the person who cannot be happy today, even tomorrow, when he gets the things that he wants, he's still going to be happy. So it's really, really important that you think of happiness as a place of harmony and not a place of excitement. It's two different things. Now, if a person is in the middle of a very tough and rough situation, I want to compare this to a time when things are trembling. It says, there is one verse that says, Ivdu et Hashem besimcha vegilu birava. You serve Hashem with joy, you serve God with joy, and you rejoice in trembling. So what is this trembling about? The trembling is when there is a meltdown, when the person is so scared of what's going on that they are not in a peaceful state. But it's very important, even at that time, to have faith that it is okay and it's going to be okay. Because if we go into the rumbling and the trembling and keep that faith that things are okay, that is the highest possible level of joy. Why? Because it's like when a mother is about to give birth. There is a moment between the continual contraction and when the mother is going to push the baby out, what's called transition. And during transition, the whole body is shaking. And that's usually how people know that it's going to happen very soon, because the body is shaking and it's a trembling. So the person can say to themselves, oh my gosh, what's happening now? Something terrible is going to happen, because they're shaking without any control over their body. Or if they're more knowledgeable and trust that this is a natural process, it's difficult, it's hard, but it's worth it, they can think to themselves, I'm shaking, and this means that things are going to have that happy ending, and I'm going to see my baby soon. So again, I'm going to repeat this. If a person is able to keep faith in the time of difficulty, in the time when things are shaking and trembling, this is a highest level of being happy when everything is going good. A much higher level. All right? I mean, we all heard the story of Rabbi Rubashtin when he says, Aleph plus Gimel, Aleph plus Bey equals Gimel. Aleph is the Emunah, Base is the Bitachon, which is the practical application of it, and that brings the Gimel with the Geula, which brings salvation. So when you have the feelings and you translate them into actual behavior in your actual everyday life, this is your expression of faith. It's an outward expression of it, and this is what brings the salvation and deliverance. So everybody has to know, being happy doesn't mean to smile for nothing. I mean, you can, but being happy, you can be crying and be happy. This is something that a lot of people have a hard time, because they think if you're happy, you're totally happy, just happy. And if you're sad, you're just crying, and that's all there is to it. But something people don't understand, that the laughing and the smiling and the crying, it is part of the human, it's part of the human condition. The living through joy and the sadness is so that we can see that every human person has had this happen in their life. You see people in the street, you don't know what they're going through. They're smiling, you don't know what they're going through. It's part of the human life. Everybody has that. This is something you can say, okay, everybody dies, everybody pays their taxes, and everybody laughs and everybody cries. Because this is part of who we are as a human being. So some people think if you be happy, you can't be sad. And I want to say something. You can have both. You can be sad because something sad happened, and we have to empathize, and we have to have compassion, and we have to feel also the sad events in our life. But it doesn't mean that we're not at the same time, for example, grateful for what we have. When we are sad about something that is happening, or let's say a person is having a very difficult situation, they can be sad about that situation that is a problem for them, but they can also be happy from recognizing all the good things that they have, that they had in the past, that they will have in the future. And not everything is black and white. A person can be not healthy and enjoying the real sunshine, or a person can be having lost their job but be happy about their family being in good health. So you can have both at the same time. So and we have to be also able to feel fully when a person has sadness in their lives. It's also a very good, if something sad happened and you don't feel it because you detach from it, because you're not able to feel the sadness, that's a problem. If a person is following the process of life, no matter what happens, they have to be able to enjoy what they're going through. Even if it's a moment of sadness, you can enjoy feeling the sadness. I don't know, that rings a bell. Enjoying feeling the sadness. So you can have sadness, but you can have joy at the same time, because you are able to feel, you're able to connect, and that's how you live. Because if we don't enjoy the process of living, then what are we going to enjoy? The end goal? I don't think anybody wants to be at the end goal. The end goal is death. So we better enjoy what there is now as we're in the process of it. So, okay, so now we're going to think about how to be happy at all times. Well, I think it would be a really, really good thing if we could say, I'm happy at all times, even in the moment of sadness. How do we do that? Before I tell you how to do that, I'm going to ask you something else. And you feel free to take, a pen and papers, whatever is over there. And you might want to write things down. What I'm going to ask you is, what are your values? What are your goals? What is essential to you? Do you know what you want? Do you know what you want to get? A lot of people know what they don't want, but they have a hard time telling you what they really want. So why am I talking about values? Because values is very important to feel in harmony. Let's say you have harmony between two people. And we're going to go back later to the harmony within oneself. But let's say you have two people. And one of the person in the couple is a woman who holds very highly of verbal and gesture communication. And the husband, he doesn't like to talk. He's like an old cowboy. So yes, he says no. And every once in a while, he doesn't recall. And that's it. That's the end of the conversation. So, of course, the two don't share the same value and they get out of sync. And that's causing a lot of frustration. So what are the principal values that you have? Whether it's at work, whether it's with your client or customers, whether it's in your community, whether it's in your family, in any relationship you have with people, what are the principal values? And if you want to have a good group, a good communication, and be synchronized and be living in harmony, you gotta have the same values. It's very hard, believe me, nowadays I think everybody feels that. It is very hard to be in contact with people that are at the opposite spectrum of what you think. It's very hard. because you're constantly clashing. So the values are very, very important. And I also want to mention that the values can change with time and with zone. So let me tell you about the time first. For example, this guy was just listening the other day. So he said when he was young, when he was a boy, his main value was freedom and excitement and adventure. So he saw that the neighbor had the kind of rope or whatever, zip line type of thing over, I don't know if it was a cliff or something like that. And that was really cool. And he said, for sure, as soon as the neighbor turned his head, he went on there, track and went in there. He didn't think about a value about safety. His only thinking was, he's thinking about adventure and he's thinking about excitement, and he goes onto the zip line, which was not very safe, and he fell down. All right, so he broke a few things. All right. So, but his value is freedom, and adventure. So he does that. So what happened later on in life? The same person still has this value of freedom, adventure, excitement. Tells his friend, we're going skiing. So tell me what's the highest mountain, the highest slope. I'm going to have a fantastic time. I want the longest possible excitement. So his friend tells him, yeah, the hardest one is there. They go all the way up, and they go on their ski and they start slowing. The guy's enjoying the wind, the flow, the sliding. It's amazing. And then he realizes that he doesn't know how to stop because he never took lessons. So he ended up breaking a few more bones. So you understand how the value of that person is giving them what he really wants. But you also have to understand that sometimes we have to have a time and place for our values. For example, if that person would have added security to this, it would have been a little bit safer for him, right? But I guess it didn't. It only came much later in life after he broke a few things. So the values that we have can change with our life experience. Our knowledge, when we know better, that if it's not safe, you're going to break something, you don't want to go through that. Our maturity, it will change. And look how many times a person has friends from childhood and then they have no connection with that person. And even if they would meet, for some reason, they don't connect with that person. Why? Because the values have changed. Maybe before, when they were teenagers, all what they thought about was having a fun time, running around and getting drunk and going places and meeting with people. And now their values have changed because they're older and their goal in life is different. So values can change, but it's still important to have these values, the one that you want to have. Because the thing is, if you don't have values, what's going to happen is society is going to give them to you. That's it. They're going to tell you that, after work, you're entitled to sit for 7 hours on Netflix or spend the night on it. They're going to tell you that you're entitled to ask for money even if you didn't work. And that's the value that, could be promoted just from you watching all kinds of different things, social media, Google. Google will give you values. Not necessarily the value you want to have, but if you don't choose them, you're going to find them. So we read on the holiday of Purim, we read the scroll of Esther. In the scroll of Esther, we meet people, and different people have different values. So we cannot escape this thing about the Megillah of Esther right now because, we on the holiday of Shavuot, we read the scroll of Ruth. On the holiday of Purim, we read the scroll of Esther. So let's see what it says here. We have the king who is at the head of the kingdom. He has 127 states. In other words, the civilization is completely Googled up. It's all under the same roof, under the same power. And what is this king Ahasuerus? How do you call it in English? That's in Hebrew, Ahasuerus, whatever. In English, I don't know exactly how you say his name. He values power. So he bought his way into the kingship. He married into a noble family the daughter of a king, because he himself was not a king. So he figured, if I married the daughter of a king, I'll be associated with that power. He fought wars to gain the power. He even killed his wife to ascertain that he remains in power, because his wife didn't do what he wanted her to do. So he killed her to show he's in charge and he has power, not her. So he highly, how should I say, he gives a very high value to power. He even thought that sitting on the King Solomon's throne will automatically give him power. That's what he thought. So you see that his power is kind of something else, because it's all external power. In fact, everything he did showed his lack of power. Because he was not noble, he felt inferior. Because he didn't have money, he felt inferior. Because of a lot of things, he felt inferior. So he tried to fix all of this, but inside he had no power. Why? Because real power is to inspire others to do what is in their own best interest and to inspire them. That's real power. And this is how God does it. God doesn't say, okay, you didn't do what I tell you to do, out. That's not how it works. People do all kinds of things. It all goes. Why? Because the world is set up so that we have freedom. We're free to do whatever we want. We're given guidelines, but we're free to do whatever we want. So if God would force us to do what he wants us to do, that would foil his whole purpose of creating a world with free will. So we would just be puppets. So also Thoreau, he said, any fool can make a rule. I just love this. I wish I knew this before. He said, any fool can make a rule. Like I would say, any fool can make a mandate. It's just like, go make them and just put them out there and everybody. And then he said, and it takes a fool to follow it. Because people are not thinking for themselves. They're just like, okay, I have power. I'm telling you to do this. Go ahead and do it. And then you have a whole bunch of fools that are following. I mean, if you see a world where people follow rules because of TV, news and social media is telling you, go do this, go do this, go do that, then there's a lot of fools going around because they're all following. Anyway, so then that's my opinion. Apparently Thoreau thought the same thing. Okay, so the value of power. Okay, so we have a king who thought he had power. We see that the power that he thought was not really power. The true power is what we have, the character of Mordechai. The character of Mordechai is a leader. First of all, he took an orphan. He took her in his house. He raised her. He encouraged her. He educated her. He provided for her. He raised her to have very important value and strength. And he made her the pillar of his home. That's Mordechai. He took this little baby that was born without her parents, and he took care of her and educated her and made her into Queen Esther. So he didn't need to control other people because the power that he had was over himself. And that's what enabled him to inspire other people. And this is true dominion. This is true kingship. A king is a king who has power, has willpower over himself, and he inspires people. And so did he get sidetracked when people were against him? No. Did he get sidetracked and bend down when people said to him, look, this is the law and you got to do it? No. He did what he thought was right and he didn't bend it. This is true power. This is a lot of real power. So he didn't bend down. He didn't bow to Haman, to the bad guy. And he stayed like that until the end. No matter what, his power was from his inside. And he resisted pressure. What do we see about the character of Esther, the Queen Esther? She also resisted pressure. She was told, don't say where you're from. Don't divulge where you're coming from. Do not tell your nationality. Do not say that you're Jewish. Just don't say anything. Just keep quiet. And it was very hard because here was her husband, her now husband, the king who chose her, and he made a feast in her honor. He called it the Feast of Esther, and he invited everybody, and it was very lavish, and it was all in her honor. And still, she wouldn't talk. Then he releases the provinces from the head taxes. That's a big deal. Still, she wouldn't talk. Then he gave all the noblemen gifts in her name, and still she didn't talk. She didn't know what to do. At the end, he made a second round of round up people and all the women in his kingdom, and he wanted to make her jealous. He didn't know what else to do to make her abandon her value. And she did not bend down under pressure. So you see that these incredible values of these people, Mordechai and Esther, who are, of course, the main characters in the scroll of Esther, are teaching us when the person has a value, it's a value that comes from inside, and it's very strong, and it's very, it has to be strong. It represents who the person is. Okay? And again, I said you can change your value according, what did I say? According to time. Because sometimes when we're young, we have some values. And when we get older, we have other values. But there is one thing that can also change. For example, it's called a zone. There's different zone in our lives. We have zone, for example, you can have the fun zone. You can have the work zone. You can have relationship zone. You can have health zone. You can have the hobby zone. You can have financial zone. And in every zone, you can uphold a certain value in that zone that you will not necessarily uphold in a different zone. Do you understand what I'm saying? No? I give you an example. Somebody's value is to have always being on time. Always being on time. So for him, when he goes to work, he's on time. He expects his employee to be on time, and that's a value that he has when he's at work. Okay? Now, what if he comes home and he says, okay, if supper is not ready at 7:05, then I'm having a fit. If the kid is not in bed by 8:30 prompt, he's having a fit. If the things are not happening exactly when they're supposed to happen, he cannot function because this value is punctuality. And he has to have supper exactly the same time every day. So maybe this punctuality he will keep for the work zone, but when he comes home, it'll be more flexible. So again, the values that we have, they can change according to the period of the stage of our lives. And they can also change according to where we are in the different places that we are being activated. So I just want you to say like this, look at your values. What are your values? What are the things that are important to you? If freedom is important to you, then maybe you're going to go on the track right now. if obeying blindly to laws, maybe you're just going to do whatever you're being told to do without asking. If your value right now is to be loving to everyone, you're not going to start a fight with someone. But if your value is to have freedom and somebody is preventing you, you'll fight. You'll draw your gun and you'll fight. So everybody has their value. And the main thing is that if you keep to your values, you'll feel authentic, you'll be in harmony with yourself, and that's how you get happiness. The happiness is not going to come from outside. The happiness is going to come from you being in sync with your values. So let's see what values you can come up with. Anybody wants to share? You don't have to, but if you want. You can have many different values. You don't have just one value. Some of them are more important than others, but you have different values for sure. Health. Number one thing. If you don't have it, what do you do? I mean, some people without health can do a lot of things which are amazing, but still, this is like a main focus. Yeah. So also when you see values, you have values that you go away from and values that you go towards. Okay. I give you an example. Somebody can have a value, they go away from rejection. They go away from anger. That at all costs avoid anger. That at all costs avoid being alone because they feel loneliness. So that's going to make them go away from that. Some people are very afraid and go away from failure, from humiliation, from guilt, from frustration. So remember, there's some values that are equally important that you're going away from. Okay? And you have to know this. What is the thing that I hate so much that I'm willing to do anything to get away from? Some people might, right now, they can say, I'm like, the thing that I hate the most is being in a state of war. Being at war. That's something that I absolutely don't want. Something that they're pushing away. So then there is the values that you want. For example, growth, love, honesty, success, contribution, freedom, intelligence. Like Professor Didier Raoul on his website, the motto is, we have the right to be intelligent. Because everybody's following like lemurs, and this is, we can ask questions, we can look into things, we want to know more. Some people, their value is gratefulness. It's very important to them to feel grateful. So it's a huge one. Some people, on the other hand, what they want is security. So they'll give up on a lot of things in order to have security. Some people on the opposite, or all they want is adventure. Doesn't matter what happened, adventure is number one. Some people want power. Some people want passion. The drama queens, usually, they want passion. They don't care if it's going to mess up their lives. The main thing is that they have passion. That they be willing to mess up relationship and to scream and to have this thing and fire up as long as there's passion in there. Some people need comfort. You leave me alone, I'm in my chair, I'm watching the thing, and whatever happens somewhere else, it's not my business. My comfort comes first. Health, you said very nicely, Shirley. Number one. Some people have fun. Fun is primary. You'll recognize these people that the fun is number one. You'll look how many vacations they take in a year. You'll look what they do when they come home, and you look what they have on their desk, and you'll figure out that their fun is a main thing. Creativity could be also something that is very important to you. So once you know your values, a good thing to do is to sort them out in an order of priority. Like, you have a lot of values. We all have. I mean, I hope so. But you just take them and you put them in an order. Like, what are the top 5 for me? What are my top 5? Because the brain cannot deal with too many things. So if you have 5, it's like 7 plus or minus 2 is the ideal number for the brain to deal with things. So let's say you have your main 5 values. Let's say being compassionate and helping others is one of your top values. Or let's say, health is your top values. So you put them in order. Because if you know what is your primary value at any moment, let's say you have a choice now between doing a favor to someone because your value is to do kindness to other people. You want to show love and you want to show compassion. And the other one is, if you do that, it means you're going to stay up and you're going to miss on your sleep and you're going to be rotten the next day, not going to feel healthy. So what's your primary value? Is it your health or is it compassion to other people? And maybe if your primary value is compassion, how about you start with yourself? And then if you get enough, then you can, join and maybe do something else for the person that you wanted to help. But if you mess yourself up because you are taking a value that is not a primary value and you're pushing it to the front and pushing your primary value to the side, that's when you're not going to feel in sync and in harmony with yourself. So most of the time, people have pain and are not happy. And they're not happy. Why? Because they're reacting in a way that doesn't feel authentic. And what do I mean by not feeling authentic? It means that the person is not either acting or thinking according to their primary values. Let's say a person, their primary values or whatever is to have fun. Okay? That's their values. That's what all they want in life. And now you put them with 5 kids to take care of. You understand where it's going to click wrong somewhere? Unless that person happens to have fun changing diapers all day long. It's okay. If that's a fun, that's good. But, so this is very interesting point here. That sometimes you do something and you don't feel good about it. Can you bring your main value into what you're doing? For example, somebody is sitting at their desk, sitting, and they're doing, I don't know, programming, for example, where there's a lot of repetition and a lot of sitting and doing the same thing over and over again. And they happen to be a creative person, and that's one of their values. So if they cannot keep on doing this job and being happy because their creativity is not there. Their job is not creative job. So they're spending 8 hours a day at something that brings them no creativity, which is one of their main values. So one way to handle the situation is to try to bring creativity into that boring job. That requires creativity to do it in itself. But If you bring one value that is very important to you into an area that is not going well for you, that's a way of rebalancing the situation. All right. So again, look at your values, look at what they are, put them in a certain order where you have your 5 most important value on the top of the list. See if there is any values you like to add, because sometimes people say, well, I've been doing this all my life, but you know what? I think that if I would do something like singing or dancing, that'll change my life. And so I have never done it, but I can add it. I know somebody who was a computer programmer all her life, working for a bank. And when she retired, she went into art. It was the greatest thing. She just loved it. She couldn't get enough of it. And that satisfied her. That's what she wanted. Just because you don't have a value doesn't mean you can't take it. If you like something somewhere else or you see somewhere else, you can add it to your list. So, again, values are very important. Benjamin Franklin had his 13 principles. And he found that in life, it was extremely beneficial to work on it. If you don't have a value, you can maybe work on it. And there is charts and ways to work on things like that. So we're just going to very briefly go into Benjamin Franklin's value that have been taken up by Rav Israel Salanter also. So his values were patience. I can't stress enough how patience is such a thing that right now people are saying, okay, this situation is a disaster. So can you be patient right now? I think women have more patience because until they see their baby, it takes them 9 months. But some men have no patience. It has to be right now, right away. And patience is a very good thing to have. Silence. Sometimes we say things, just blurt them out. Silence. If you don't talk, somebody else will talk. And that could be really cool because now you're going to know things you didn't know. Pleasantness, of course. Humility. Thriftiness is something that now with credit cards people don't work on so much. Justice, so important. People always feel like they can't forgive and this and that, and justice is so important. It helps so much when you have a strong sense of justice and you look for justice. Truth is another huge one. Cleanliness, diligence, alacrity, peace of mind, respect, and order. So you see, this list of Benjamin Franklin has 13. It doesn't go well. The 13 best quality you can cultivate in your life. Nowadays, it's like the 5 best thing and the 3 most important thing and the 7 qualities of leadership. It never goes further than 7 because after that, people just, check out. But look at what your essential qualities are. Start the day with it. And if at some point, anytime in your day, I'm not saying in your life, in your day, whether you're driving somewhere, whether you're talking to someone, or you in your house, or you're exercising, or you just going to bed, or at any point in the day, you feel frustrated, please take a look. Is anything happening now not in sync with my values? Most of the time things happen. But because things happen on the outside, doesn't necessarily change what is happening inside. If you go to a person who's having fantastic day, fantastic time, and you go and you say, you know what? Right now, I don't know, something happened, and you just lost, $500 right now. Whatever is happening, whatever. I'm just saying a number, any number for different people is different things. But the person is super happy right now. They just have this incredible news, or there's a new baby that was born, or something really makes them so happy. They really in a good state. And somebody come and say something mean to them. They're like, what's the matter with this guy? Like, what's his problem today? Just go somewhere else, get out of here and finish with it. He's not going to take it on him. It's just going to buff it out, because he in himself, he's happy with himself. He's not in any conflict. Now, on the other hand, somebody is now having a very huge thing. For example, they know they're overeating. They know that they're not taking care of their health. They know that their weight is really, it's like obesity is way beyond. And somebody comes and tells them, for example, you fatso. It's going to really upset them, because their thing is health. They feel guilty. And then someone else comes and pours salt on the wound. That's going to trigger. That's going to trigger. Because the person is not in sync with their own value. Their own value is health. And here they are just messing up. So now somebody else comes and tells them something. That's going to be a big trigger. Because they themselves, they're not in harmony with their own values. So anytime something happens, look if it's in harmony, in sync with your own values. And if you are always in harmony with your own values, you're going to be happy. I remember reading about these prisoners in Satnaya prison. I mean, this is enough to give you a nightmare. I'm telling you. I don't know why they haven't bombed this place yet. But in any case, so the prisoners that are abused and tortured every single moment, they have to find a way. They have to find a way to find some kind of happiness. Because if they don't, they die. So maybe their value is, we're standing for our right. Or we dying for a purpose, or something that is a value and that they espouse to, and that they live, and now whatever the other people are doing to them is not affecting that value. So now we're coming to the holiday of Purim, and this month we're supposed to increase the joy. So now I just give you a recipe. It's not a recipe for food, but it's a recipe for happiness. And a lot of people want to know how to be happy, and nobody is telling them. This is the pursuit of happiness. You can pursue all your life. If you are not in harmony with your own values, you're not gonna find happiness. So in all the domains, we have to know that nothing in life can match the fulfillment of knowing you've done what you truly believe is the right thing. And in all the domains, we have to know how to position our values. And this is the real happiness, because then we're going to be in harmony with the values. And again, you can have this happiness even if there is a sad event. We're not supposed to be dancing of joy when we lost a dear person. But we can be feeling the sadness, knowing that our value of love towards that person is very important. And as we feel the sadness, we can be happy at the same time, because we are in sync with our values. So I'm going to end by giving you the following, that may God bless you with happiness, and may you work on it too. And may you find a way to be in harmony with yourself by paying attention and practicing the values that are dear to you. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Nicole and Ginger. So nice to see Ginger is on. Just miss you, Ginger. And Miriam also, thank you so much for being on. I'm going to now turn, and we're going to have now the raffle, the singing, and the rest of it. Thank you so much. Next time, I hope you join us again. Okay, bye. All right.
Can we take a couple questions?
So the question was, if we have a value, that value, let's say, and I'm going to take another example. We took the example of gratitude, showing gratitude. So there's two things. That the gratitude is the value itself. Is it us having gratitude, or is other people showing gratitude? So you have two things here. It's the same word, but it's two different stories. And I'll tell you another one. For example, love. People say, I want love in my life. So really what they want is somebody to love them.
Uh-huh.
But that's not calling having the value of love. Because if you want to have the value of love, you have to have love inside of you. Now, what is that is, because love, it's like everybody says, it's a different definition, but a lot of it is compassion and gratitude mixed together. So if a person has the value of love, it means that they have love inside of them, and okay, maybe it stays there, maybe it comes out. Is love a giving component of your personality? Or is love taking care of yourself, self-love? Because so many people, you know, it's amazing, but in our communities, a lot of people, like, self-love is like, no, I'm doing for other people. What do you mean doing for myself? And then they don't feel like they're entitled to love themselves or to give to themselves, period. And they're always doing for other people. Come in. So what I'm saying is, when we talk about values, these value are the value are really not what you expect from other people. That's a different story altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? If value is honesty, let's say value is honesty. Hi, Tracy. If value is honesty, your primary component of happiness is for you to be honest. Okay? Now, if somebody is dishonest, it's going to rub it wrong. It's going to rub it wrong. But it's their problem. But if you are dishonest, if you did something that is dishonest, and your value is honesty, you're not happy. You're always going to have this, I'm not supposed to do that. I'm not supposed to do that. So even though the person, let's say, they wanted to be rich. So it was very important to them to be rich. Okay? That was one of their values, that they wanted financial success. Fine. But also, they also had this thing of honesty. And they acquired that wealth through dishonesty. They're not going to be a happy person. They'll be rich financially, but they're not going to be a happy person. Why? Because they contradicted, they went against their inner value. So the same thing with love. It's not an easy thing. If somebody has love, we're reading this thing from Tony Robbins. So somebody has, he was cheated big time by a guy who was dishonest. Stole from him, I don't know, $500,000, I don't know how much, you know? And one day, the guy's on the same plane with him. So the guy, like, just going to the end of the plane, go in the back seat over there, like doesn't want to be like no. And okay, he stayed there. So during the flight, Tony said, "What are my values?" True values, honesty. Yeah. What he did makes me mad. Yes, I thought I was over it 2 years later. No, I'm still mad about it. And sometimes it does happen. Seeing a person triggers you back.
Yeah.
You thought you were fine until you now really face to face with that person, or you getting that energy again and say, no. But in any case, so he said, because it was the person who works on himself, says, what is my value? What is my primary value? To love and to show love. So went to the guy when they were waiting for the luggage, and went to the guy and he told them, you know what? I really completely disapprove of what you did. Don't get me wrong. But my value right now is to love people, so you should know I'm loving, like, I don't have the feelings of, that I used to have.
Mm-hmm.
He went to the person. The person wanted to bury himself, I'm sure. I was like, whatever. But what I'm saying is that a lot of people think if you have these values, so I have it, therefore other people have to have it.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? You wish. I have value for peace. Now, I wish the whole world would be at peace. So like General Matthew said, people always fought and they're going to continue fighting. So we hope for the best, but I'm saying just because your value is one thing, you can't expect other people to have it. And we try within our own circles to educate our children or to share with other people or whatever, but you can try to do things. You can be a teacher and influence people. You can, share your knowledge with people and share your values, but when I'm saying to be authentic and be in harmony with yourself, it has to do what's in you.